Hey everyone! A very happy new year to you, and I truly hope that 2025 is going to be filled with creativity and art and a lot of growth and development, so that you may become the fellow artist that you really want to be this year. So going on to that, we have all just spent hours and hours in kitchens and outside, I don't know, maybe even playing with fireworks and all that kind of stuff. We celebrated the holidays, and of course the holidays always kind of go hand in hand with a lot of food. So I personally was in the kitchen for several hours because I decided to prepare some sushi. And while I was making the sushi, I realized that sushi is actually a pretty interesting subject to draw and to sketch. So I decided for today's video that I wanted to make a quick study of sushi, simply because we are working with these very simple sort of geometric shapes. We got cylinders, we got balls, we almost got squares even, and boxes, rectangles. It's all there, and it's all very simple in its shape, but it's all very pretty because of the color. So in today's video, I want to show you a quick sketch that I made, and I want to take you through the processes and the simple shapes so that you, even as a beginning artist, or even if you're a very advanced artist, can sort of reset your skills for a second and just go back to simple shapes instead of looking at very complicated things. So have a look with me, and of course let me know in the comments what you think of the video. So first off, let's start with a very general composition. So what you see me doing here is just create some very easy outlines, very rough sketch lines, just to indicate where the shapes are going to be. So I started with the tray that has a bowl of soy sauce on it. Of course, you see me drawing the cylinders, the very simple cylindrical shapes. We've got some ellipses for the sushi pieces, obviously. So there's going to be a couple of things floating. This is going to be a very happy piece. This is not going to be a realistic table setting of sushi, by the way. Perhaps I should have said that somewhere at the very beginning of this video. But this is going to be, I don't know, just a happy piece with scattered pieces floating all over, soy sauce, flying through the air. It's all going to be very happy, very energetic, very dynamic. We've got, pieces of cucumber flying around. We've got some carrots. Mistakes were made, obviously. So what I realized here is that I wanted to have more emphasis on the sushi pieces and not necessarily on the vegetables around it. So I'm basically going for this half circular shape, this half circular composition, where the vegetables, like I'm drawing the pieces of avocado right now, but the vegetables are going to be the frame of this composition. So I wanted everything to be in there, and I realized that the sushi pieces I had were simply just too small. So I enlarged those a bit, and then reconfigured the pieces of vegetables. On top of that, I've got some what's it called? The little eggs, the orange things. I always call them the little Finding Nemo eggs, but I guess that doesn't really make this a child-friendly video, does it? So some more cucumber. Here you really see this frame of vegetables coming into existence. You really see how this circular composition is going to be framed. So final piece of avocado right there. And here I start filling things in. So yes, these are still pretty rough lines, but that's okay. This is where it becomes 3D, obviously. It's, there is a beauty in the simplicity of this. I tend to draw pretty complex compositions most of the time, and it's kind of refreshing to just go back to these simple shapes. We still have a pretty complicated composition because we've got, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got more than 10 objects in this entire composition, but because the shapes are so simple, it's easy to sort of maintain that overview and to sort of keep where you want to go like sharp in mind, because you don't have to focus on all these details. Well, that's a cat in the background. I'm not even sure if you heard that. It's impossible not to hear that. Hello, girl. Yes. You got your first cameo of the year. That's very good. Anyway, sorry about that. My cat does really like to complain whenever the microphone is on. So she wants to, be heard. She wants her voice to be heard. So yeah, sorry, let's go back into the drawing. We've got the soy sauce going on here. The little bowl, again, very simple. It's just a bowl cut in half, really. So some splatters going out of that. Again, I love the simplicity of this. Like, you can create all different kinds of, dishes, and you can make them star-shaped or whatever. But sometimes there is real power in the simplicity of things. So when you're practicing and when you're just making a quick sketch, I found that simplifying things back into the original geometric shapes can really help you when you're still building on the composition of things. Funny thing is that a couple of days ago, I did a workshop. I hosted a workshop that was about drawing the mice that some of you may even know me for. So I have this series called The Age of Mice, where I draw the little rodents on their own little adventures. And even there, I broke down the whole image all the way back to geometrical shapes. So we had trapeziums, we had ellipses, we had boxes and circles. Like, it was just the simplest of things. And most of the participants from the workshop actually went back to these similar shapes. And every single one of them ended up drawing a mouse on its own little adventure while still being recognizable as an actual mouse. So again, I think this is like the core of this video, is that shapes can look super complicated, but you can 9 out of 10 times you can simplify them back to geometrical shapes. And I think even as a little exercise to train your mind into just observing what you see, I think that is just a great little thing to know or to be able to. Yeah, so this is the first piece of sushi, and it's really just a cylinder with a little texture, of course, because we've got the rice. So this is one of those inside-out rolls. But it's, again, it's like the flat surface, the cylinder going down or up, depending on, the way where you start. In my case, it went down. Yeah, cylinders are quite easy. And you'll also see that when you start shading things or when you start coloring things, shades really bring a lot of plasticity to things. So once I decide where the light source is going to be, like, I already have a bit of a giveaway because there is a shadow cast on a bowl of soy sauce. So as long as I'm consistent, which tends to be a bit of a problem sometimes, but as long as I'm consistent and put the shadow on the same side with all the other objects, it really shouldn't be hard to give this sense of 3D to it. I'm not sure let me know in the comments, what's your favorite piece of sushi? For me, it's a tough choice. It's either like a good hand roll with the fried shrimp in it, or it's the inside out rolls with the salmon eggs in there, the Finding Nemo eggs. Yeah, we ate way too much sushi this Christmas because one day I was making it myself for the family. And the other day we went out. We reserved a table at a restaurant here in the city. And they served sushi as well, which was a kind of a surprise. So we had sushi 2 days in a row, and I have no regrets. None whatsoever. So yeah, again, if you look carefully, these the shrimps, the prawns on top of these rice thingies, they are very flat shapes by themselves, but because of these half circular lines that I'm drawing in them, you create this idea of it being 3D, three-dimensional. So it's about a way to use shapes and lines. And obviously, again, when you start coloring and you start using the light and dark to sort of emphasize that plasticity, that's when you really start making the magic happen. But for today's video, I just wanted to focus a little bit on the sketch. Give some extra lines. Again, I think these lines too are just to create a bit of texture, but also to emphasize the 3D, because you see that in the like the thickness of this of the dish, the lines are going into the opposite direction of where the length of that thing is going. So it really just puts another emphasis on, you know, the direction of the shape. So we got another little cylinder coming up. Another inside-out rolls with Nemo eggs. I think that's really just what I'll be calling them for the rest of my life, just Nemo eggs. And imagine me going to a restaurant. Yeah, sir, I would like to have the sushi with Nemo eggs, and this guy just staring at me blankly, like, what is this woman on about? So very happy, very chaotic, but at the same time very organized because of the placement of all the individual pieces. Like, they're all individual, but they form this sort of general shape together, like this composition. And the most difficult part is always, of course, to draw a straight line without a ruler. It's, as long as you're sketching, you know, it's doable. But to draw a straight line just in one stroke, there are people who are excellent at doing that. I am not that kind of person. I have to keep sketching. Like, I draw a gazillion lines to give you an idea of where, like, the general direction of that line is going to be. Like, my brain will interpret it as a straight line, but man, it's most definitely not. Again, this is also a way to create this 3D effect, is by drawing objects in front of each other. So if you look carefully, you see a couple of the little circles, like the eggs. You see them in front and between the chopsticks. So as a result, your brain interprets that as these things in between, like the left and right chopstick. So you create this sense of dimensions, of depth, even though this is a very, like, 2D image. I really enjoy these quick sketches. Like, 20 minutes is nothing. Sometimes when I create these full pieces, I can spend a day or like 2 days just sketching, refining. And then I'm not even talking about the coloring work. Like, I can spend a full week or even 2 weeks on a painting, whether it's digital or manual with the gouache, for example. I've been really enjoying myself with gouache paints. I bought one of those Himi boxes, I think it's like 2 months ago, the one with 150 colors, and it's great. It's absolutely great. I don't know, it's just refreshing to sort of be able to switch between drawing digitally and just going back to, literally the drawing board and, the easel or whatever you decide to use. Like, I've got these tiny notebooks, like the one you see me working in right here. But I also really, really dig, going back to the canvas and just work large. And I don't really regret having waited with that for such a long time. Like, I know that I spent the last at least 5 years mostly just drawing digitally. And I don't regret that. Like, it really opened a new door for me where, working internationally, for example, is just a lot easier when you just have digital files to ship. Shipping canvases or print, or not prints, but originals that are just on paper, not necessarily on canvas. It's always tricky because you never know if the postal service is going to fail, or if something gets ruined, like it gets stuck in the machine and it just shreds it to pieces. So working digital has really buffed up my portfolio in the last couple of years. But there's also a certain ease to working digitally. And I know a lot of people say, well, you got this Ctrl-Z thing where if you make a mistake, you can just erase it. However, I don't know. I hardly ever use Ctrl-Z because, I can't do that on a canvas either, can I? Like, I do have an eraser and I can erase something. But most of the time, I just tend to paint over it, just like you would on a real canvas. So sure, digital painting does have some benefits. Like, you got a gazillion types of brushes. You've got stems, which are a lot easier on a computer than to do in real life. But I think in essence, like, the way you work with color and compositions, like, the eye doesn't change. Like, you still have to look at something and see what you're doing. You still need to make the conscious decisions for your composition and color work. So none of that really changes when you work digitally. It's nice to see things come together, We've got a couple of different cylinders now. So we got the inside-out rolls that have the fluffy outside for the rice. And now I just wrapped up 2 of the normal sushi rolls, which are very smooth. And it's kind of cool to see the contrast between, those 4 pieces of sushi. Just the different textures. Different textures can do really a lot in any drawing, really. And the same actually goes for the piece that I'm drawing right now. Like, this one is supposed to be tuna, which has the straight lines across the piece of fish. Whereas with the next piece, I am drawing salmon, which has a completely different texture. Even though the outside shape remains the same, it's the texture inside of the material that, makes the difference. And obviously, again, like in colors, the tuna is going to be much darker than the salmon. But this was just interesting to see, in terms of texture. Like, we're just talking about, 4 or 5 lines, and just, you'll see in a second the difference the direction of these lines, create. It's kind of cool. Some more pieces of cucumber for the framing. So just as a sketch, these don't really look like much. These are just your whatever bent rectangles, no colors. And I think this is just where, the shape comes into context once you start adding color. But that's not for now. That's not for this video. So this is the salmon piece that I talked about. So just start with the shape and create a little bit of a 3D illusion by giving it a thickness. So this line that I'm drawing right here is just to give you an idea that this slice is not flat, but actually has a thickness. And here you see what I'm doing is like these lines going through like the flesh of the thing. These are curved, and compare these to the tuna on top of it. It's very different. So again, it's interesting to see what a simple line can do if you just take it out of context. That's English. That's very hard. Take it out of context and just bend it. Just play around with it. This is really just fluff, just fluffing up the illustration. Use them as a frame and just use it to ultimately create some life on it, because this is really where, you know, details start bringing things together. It's these smaller pieces. It's like, it's the tiny eggs and it's the pieces of vegetables that really bring it together. So there's this final shape of avocado. Here we go. And there we have it. A very simple sushi composition based on cylinders, ellipses, rectangles, circles, you name it. Just an easy little exercise. Have fun with it. And follow me on every social platform you can think of. And show me your version of this exercise. See you soon, guys.